Yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Really, really excited to go into my second year here at App State. I feel like our first year we did a really good job of just kind of laying the foundation of who we want to be as a program and how we want our team to represent the product on the floor, right? We share the ball, we want to play really hard, we want to rely on our defense. And this year I feel like we are more powerful, more talented. I'm really appreciating how our returners have done a great job just stepping up and just leading, and they've been very vocal in how they want the culture of our program to be. I feel like our new players are really following along and really excited to get to November 3rd.
We'll open up now for questions for our media. Please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. Started off with Adam Miller.
Hey, Coach Sharp, you talked about, the foundations that were laid for your program and some of the, talent, you mentioned the increased talent that you brought into your program. One of those players, is a preseason all conference pick, and then you have Emma Smith, who's the transfer from Denver, averaged double figures last year. Just what have you seen from them so far, and what kind of contributions are you expecting from them this season?
Yeah, Elle, obviously really proud of her being a preseason all conference selection. She's been one of the hardest working players. She's very, very vocal. Our players are really following her. She communicates every possession, every rep. I think anyone that walked into our gym would be able to say that that's our leader. And what's really cool is Emma Smith has been a leader for 3 years at a different school. And so she's starting to figure out how to find her voice and how to raise, she came here to win, and how to raise our level of being comfortable, being uncomfortable, right? Like there's a certain way that winners are. There's a certain way that champions think. And when adversity hits, they stick together. And both of them have done a really good job with that. Elle is a really good shooter. She's really developed her attack off the bounce this summer and spring and fall. And so really excited to see her get downhill and expand her game. So she has her post game, she's got her attack game, and obviously her three ball. Emma Smith had 7 assists in her inter squad scrimmage, and she's obviously really good at sharing the basketball, trying to help her have more of a balance with scoring. But also, I mean, we've had some other players come in and be really dominant so far. I mean, Jaden McBride has shown her ability to shoot and really score and be a great defender for us, as well as Deja Mitchell. She was MVP of the California junior college system out there, and her energy, she's won a championship. So we've really leaned on her with kind of talking about that championship mindset. So she's done a great job with that too. And just looking forward to improving our depth, kind of figuring out who's number 9, 10 for us on our depth chart.
Let's go over to Victoria.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned how Elena obviously is a good scorer. She got a great percentage from last year, led the team. Looking at stats from last year, your team as a whole was top of the league in field goal percentage, but more towards the middle in total offense and scoring. So have you kind of looked at ways to, get those opportunities to score the ball more, knowing that you have a team that can really, shoot at a high percentage?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think when you look at our assist numbers, you look at our field goal numbers, and you think, okay, that's not really adding up to the bottom line. I think as a head coach, you really evaluate things and you break your offense down and you study really both sides of the ball. That's kind of a project that you do. And I think it's really important too, just to evaluate yourself as a leader and where can you get better and where can you grow. When you look at just the offensive side of the ball, we've manipulated our spacing. Last year, we felt like we had the type of team where we needed to really screen, really move the ball. But I feel like when I studied us, we didn't really get a lot of easy baskets, and so that's an area we're trying to push a little more in transition, see if we can get some easy baskets off of our defense. Just be harder to prepare for. I think a lot of people think motion offense is hard to prepare for. Then you add our zone that you've got to prepare for. So I think if we pick up our tempo a little bit, be better in some of those really fine-tuned, even special situations situations. That makes us better and more efficient. We've tracked a lot, points per possession. So we drill that all the time. We play against our guys. We have 10 possessions. We want to have 10 points or higher. Otherwise, we got a little sideline sprint. So just really trying to teach our kids how to not just have a good field goal percentage, but an effective field goal percentage rate.
Let's go back over to Adam Miller.
Coach Sharp, not the way you wanted to end the season last year, but you guys, were still able to get 13 wins in your first season. And you mentioned laid a lot of the foundational things for your program, but what did you feel was maybe the most rewarding thing or surprising thing that you experienced in your first year with this program and that you're excited about bringing forward and into the second season and in the future?
Yeah, I think the best part was just, going through year one, right? It's not pretty, it's not smooth. You got ups and downs and ins and outs with the team, but those three returners just really stuck together. They made a decision in the off season to finish what they started, right? They were all going to be seniors, and Elle and Emily Heggie and Zoe McCrary, who was injured for us last year. They wanted to finish what they started, right? When they came to App State, all were new to our program. They knew that there's never been a championship won here in the Sun Belt, and they knew that there were such a high ceiling for the program. And so I think that was really exciting to know that even though they had we had a rough finish to our season, they were still motivated enough to stick together, and they did a great job in the recruiting process. Like, we signed a really competitive roster, and they were very helpful. I mean, we took almost every one of their weekends in the spring. They didn't care. They had a great attitude through it all. So I think that's a win, culturally speaking. And then seeing how they have wrapped their arms around our new roster and really have shown them the ropes and just have led with such selflessness. And I think that's really good. Last year, I think Zeta Porter did a great job with some of those things. You have Emily Carver and some players who had been in the program for a long time. And I think it's great that you have three players who had only been in the program 1 year, but still have put their best foot forward with showing the ropes of the program.
Thank you, Coach Sharp. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Super excited to get the season going. Obviously, I think we have a ton of momentum to build off of. We had 5 returners coming back who played a major key in what we did. So, having that back has been big time for us on the floor. Went out and got 7 new players that we think can help make our system be a little bit better. So just going through the day-to-day process with that of trying to get our kids to understand the way that we want to play and how efficient we want to be on both sides of the ball. So are we where we want to be right now? No, it's part of the process, but we're excited to play someone else. We go against each other in our practice guys a lot, and so now we're ready to line them up and play.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start it off with Victoria.
Hey, Coach. Just going back to last season, obviously you had a lot of firsts as a coach, as a team. You made your first NCAA tournament, first time being the Sun Belt Tournament champions. I sat in that post-game interview room with y'all after the Connecticut game, and you talked a lot about, the team played with fear, but that was a good way to learn, and that you knew it was motivating your team for next year. And just wondering with, Rose and Shannon and Rogers all returning, if you've kind of seen that shift and that turn and that hunger, and maybe how that's helping those 3 kind of lead these newcomers you have as well, and maybe the culture shift you're seeing after an experience like last year.
Yeah, the culture is completely different. I think we've built the championship culture, and that's the standard here. You have to show up every single day, and if you want to put yourself in a position to compete for that again, then you got to work for it. We're not a secret anymore. I think that people are very aware of how we play and who we're going to be. So you kind of have that target on your back now. So you can't get comfortable. You can't be complacent. You got to stay starving, and you got to continue to do what you do. And I think I've seen a different level of work ethic with our players. I've seen a different level of leadership with our players. No one wants to go to the tournament and get beat the way that we did. So are we happy about that? No. So obviously that motivates you more than anything, to just get back in the lab and figure out where you could be better, but also put yourself in a position where you don't get a 15 seed if you're able to get back to the tournament.
Let's go over to Shane Metlin.
Hey, Coach. We talked a little bit this summer about, your ability to bring back those players you mentioned before, have, a couple all conference players coming back and everything. Now that you've had some time to practice with this group, how much have you seen like that actual tangible benefit of having 5 players who know what you're asking and know exactly what you're trying to do there?
Well, they're able to help us coach our newcomers. So that's been big time for us. Last year, it was completely new what we were trying to do, so no one understood it. Now we have 5 players on the floor that understand exactly what we do. So while we're, coaching and teaching, we got our returners pulling people to the side and talking them through kind of what we want to do and who we want to be. So it's been pretty cool to see them take their leadership up a level. And it's been huge for us. And I think it also speaks to the loyalty of our players. We got a first team and a second team kid that could have absolutely went and chased money. And they wanted an opportunity to be loyal to this program and have another opportunity to compete for a championship and compete to win at a high level. So I think that says a lot about our roster.
Thank you.
Let's go over to Adam Miller.
Coach Rogers, you guys constructed a pretty competitive non-conference schedule with some strong mid-majors, but also some high major schools that have had a lot of postseason success. Do you feel that this schedule is stronger than last year, and is it an even greater opportunity for your team to establish itself early in the season?
It's 100% tougher than last year. That was probably our issue last year, is that we didn't have a tough enough schedule. We didn't know how good we were going to be last year. So we tried to schedule it to win as much as we could, which we really didn't in the non-con. But this year we feel like we have the team that can go compete against really good teams. And also we want to put ourselves in a position that if we're able to make it back to the tournament, we want a better seed. That's the bottom line. So in order to do that, you got to play a tougher schedule and you got to go win some games. So the pressure on us to be better early is there. We weren't good until January last year. So we have to figure out how can we get our players and this system to start clicking a lot earlier than last year.
Let's go back over to Victoria.
Yeah, coach. Last year you talked about, all your transfers that came in were people and players that decided to spend their last season at Arkansas State, and that how grateful you were that they chose you to kind of lead them in their final year. Obviously, you have seniors and stuff again this year. Kind of, how do you, again, approach that upperclassmen and that mentality of these players that they want to come and play for you and they want to win games for you, this program?
I think now, you kind of have that proof that it works and people want to be a part of that. I think for us, there's a specific type of player that we recruit here. So that makes our recruiting pool a little bit smaller than others. But it comes down to, do you want to come be a part of something that's bigger than you? Do you want to come be a part of something that's not just about you, but it's about a team? That's the way that we play. It's not about one player. It's not about two. It's about the entire squad. And I think that players appreciate that. And I think that that's another reason why we were able to keep our players, is because most of our team plays. No one really sits. So we don't recruit people to come sit. We recruit people to come play. And I think that we recruited 7 players that can absolutely help us, that can immediately help us elevate. So we're really excited about our newcomers, excited for people to see them. They work hard every day and they want a chance to be a part of something great. So I love every last one of them. And I'm also really proud of the work ethic that I'm seeing in our returners. They're hungry and they want another shot at it as well.
Thank you, Coach Rogers. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah, so it's that time of the year. The weather's dropping a little bit. The leaves are changing, so it's starting to feel like basketball season. It's kind of what we're seeing down here at Coastal Carolina. We've had one scrimmage in the books, and we've had a productive summer, productive fall. Have battled a little bit with injuries. We're yet to have a full squad compete, so I think we're still learning a lot about this team. We're yet to have everybody together on the floor at the same time. We've got a couple key players that we really need to see what they can do as we try and figure our lineup out here. So we've had to shuffle things around a little bit. But with that said, it's been a great start to the year so far. We really like this group we've got. It's going to see a lot of new faces from what people saw last year. Last year was a great step in the right direction for Coastal Carolina. I can't remember what we were picked in the preseason poll, but I know we got the 4th seed in the conference tournament, and I think we were the 2nd highest net ranked team going into the Sun Belt tournament last year. So a lot of positives to build on. First semifinal tournament appearance in Coastal Carolina history. I think the highest net ranking in Coastal Carolina history. So now it's kind of like, okay, but you have a new group. It's the transfer portal era. And so now you bring in 10 new faces, 2 returners, but one of them is recovering from a torn ACL. So really just one returner that is playing right now. And we're excited. I see a group that is working hard for us every day. I think our staff has done a terrific job of not only replacing the talent, but replacing the type of player that you look for, that you want to coach, that you believe can hopefully help you take that next step. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you we got everything figured out or we're going to be the best team in the Sun Belt. All I know about this team is we love coaching them. They're fun to work with. They work really hard for us. And we're at that point of the season. Let's go find out how good we are.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media on the call, please use the raise hand function and we'll call on you to ask those questions. Started off with Adam Miller.
Coach Pederson, you mentioned, the influx of newcomers and, navigating the transfer portal era. And I don't know if this is your maybe largest roster turnover in the history of your career as a head coach. But with that said, if it is or if it isn't, what's the most, I guess, if there is an exciting part of having that new roster, and it's almost like does it feel like being a first year coach again? Or what is it kind of like the feel for you when you bring a whole new group of women into your locker room?
Yeah, I think you said it best. It feels a lot like your first year in a new program. That's the only thing I can really compare it to, because you're right. It's the most roster turnover I've had. We graduated 5 players, had 5 more go in the portal, and so it is. But I think that's kind of what we have to get used to now. Is just it's going to be like that every year. We're going to see a lot of turnover. Now we're hoping we hope we have a team where I think we've got 4 seniors we know are going to be out of eligibility. So it's like, okay, out of those 7 returners, the hope is to bring 6 or 7 of them back. But it's been, but it's kind of, I also think it's one of the things that's refreshing. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to have Carrie. I'd love to have this whole team back next year. Definitely makes our job easier because it's been, I don't know, 2 years ago, I remember when we started seeing, or at least recognizing where things were going. We're like, okay, we probably need to change our system up a little bit where it's more teachable year after year. We used to really rely on stacking things from year to year. It's like, okay, let's have drills. Let's have a system that each year you add another layer onto. And now we've really gone away from that. And it's okay, what's a system we can teach and reteach every year if needed? We want to play fast. That's no secret. So I think if you want to play fast, you have to have a system that's understandable. You can't think too much, because when you think too much, it slows you down. But it's been fun. We had a new group come in, and we have a freshman class we're really excited about. We have a portal class that we think our staff did a good job putting together. And so you've got freshmen who come in and they're really excited. And then you have your transfer portal kids who come in, and most of them are just in a situation where, okay, I didn't play as much as I wanted to at my last school, or maybe we didn't win as much as we wanted to win at our last school. And so both of those are great. You got someone who's looking to win more, you got someone who's looking to play more. And so it gives you a great atmosphere in practice where they're working really hard because they feel like they have something to prove. We don't have kids who came in who scored 15 a game at the Division I level. So they're not sitting here resting on their laurels. They're like, okay, let's go to work. I'm trying to earn minutes. And so it's been fun. We've really enjoyed working with this group every day.
Let's go over to Victoria.
Hey, Coach. Looking at Kristen Williams, she kind of is, that returner that, looking at the roster, you would, kind of point out as a leader, as the team being that person that's returning. Do you think in this day and age with the transfer portal, it's maybe sometimes more challenging or a little bit of maybe a mental struggle to be that one returner when you have then 10 newcomers coming in as you're kind of, the standalone player that maybe people look to kind of point you in the direction of the culture that your team is looking for?
Yeah, Victoria, that's a great question. I know when we were losing players to the transfer portal, it's one of those you keep looking around. It's like, what's the next domino that's going to fall? And, it's just, I think every coach cringes. You wait for the portal to close and you're like, okay, who's left? What do we have? And you kind of go from there. And I remember feeling that way with Kristen. We're like, if you ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire, it's like, okay, who's coming with me? Who's left? It's me and the goldfish right now. And that's kind of how we felt with Kristen. So she kept coming by the office and we're like, Chris, we're good. We feel really good about the recruiting. We feel confident we're going to surround you with people that you're going to want to play with. But there's a lot of faith involved in that. There's a lot of trust for someone like Kristen Williams, who is a coveted player who had a lot of opportunity. She could have gone just about anywhere she wanted to go. And so you're thankful for her believing in what you're doing and buying into it, not only what she experienced the year before, but hey, I trust you guys that this is not going to be a rebuild. This is going to be a reload. And so we appreciate the faith she showed. And so now she comes back and she's that player relying on okay, here's how we do drills. Here's how we do things. You set the culture. And I'm going to introduce one more name to you. So Paige Bradley comes in. She's our transfer, came in from Tulsa. And so between Paige Bradley and Kristen Williams, they have really done a remarkable job of setting and establishing culture. We get asked all the time as coaches, okay, what's the culture of your program? And I'm really quick to tell parents, it's your daughter. That's the culture of our program. Like as coaches, I think every coach across the country is trying to, we're going to be family oriented. We're going to work hard. At the end of the day, your culture comes down to who are those young women that you place in your locker room? Who are those young women you put around you put in the buses and you put in those huddles with you. And that's where we've been blessed to have what we've got. So between Paige and Chris, I thought from day one, they came in and just set a tone that our younger players and less experienced players have come in and followed it. And to the point, our culture is a head coach, I couldn't be more excited. It's easy to tell people, hey, come watch this team play. Hey, come to a practice because you know the environment they're walking into is going to be exciting.
Thanks, Coach Pederson. Appreciate the time today.
Thanks, guys.
Sure. I'm really excited to be entering into year 2 here at Georgia Southern, preparing for another tough Sun Belt Conference play. We have a really tough non-conference schedule kind of leading up to that. But much like a lot of the teams in our conference, you're going to see a lot of new faces, but we do have 4 returners. So, those that have experience kind of in our league and we're a part of some of the momentum that we built towards the end of the season last year. And then 11 newcomers. But again, like the experience of those 4 and our coaching staff now is like, I think I talked a lot about wanting to play your best basketball in March last year. And in our conference tournament bracket, you need to play your best basketball a lot sooner. So we need to really make sure that we're developing our identity throughout the non-conference schedule so that we're ready to go on December 18th. We're playing conference a little bit earlier this year. So we're just really looking forward to the opportunity to start playing someone else. But we've had a great season and a great preseason so far, and we're really enjoying coaching this group.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. Started off with Billy Mangum.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned 11 newcomers. Just talk a little bit about how that process works and how, you keep that balance between, transfers and true freshmen.
Yeah, so we really focus on recruiting in-state freshmen. So we signed 2 freshmen from the state of Georgia that have both had a lot of success at their high school programs and had the chance, obviously, to recruit them. Well, we signed them early and then, build that relationship, which I think helps over that course of the year. And then, we did mostly transfer portal. We signed 1 junior college player. I think this is probably the very end of me being able to pull from my previous ties. So I brought over my point guard from Georgia Southwestern. Her experience and the familiarity there will help quite a bit, I think. We're in a kind of unique situation. I think we have 3 sixth-year players that are all taking advantage of that Pavia ruling with the extra year from junior college. So the experience of those players, 2 returners being McKenna Eddings and Jashanti Simmons, and then Destinee Garrett coming over with that year as well. In the portal, we maybe really thought about our strategy this year and looking at maybe going after small conference players that were really good. They could come here and, really be pleased with their experience at Georgia Southern and playing in the Sun Belt. So an example of that would be Keshia Anderson. She averaged 16 points a game at Presbyterian. Even her teammate, Lainey Scoggins. So bringing both of them over. Kyla Bryant, who averaged 15 points a game at North Carolina Central. So, we tried to go after some players with some big time experience, playing experience, who had proven to, be able to score the ball at the Division I level. And then, we're also a great fit for what we want our program to be, which is, we want to be a sisterhood off of the floor. And then on the floor, we want to be really connected. We want to be tough. We want to be gritty. We want to have good balance. And so I think that we were able to achieve that with the players that we brought in, because they just really love the game. They're workers and they love being around each other. So obviously that helps a lot. But that was kind of how we approached the portal. And really overall, was the experience in scoring the ball, and we wanted to be able to shoot the 3 better. So looking at our deficiencies from last year, we didn't shoot the 3 well. We didn't defend the 3 well. We were actually a poor free throw shooting team, and we turned the ball over too much. And so when we were looking at whether it's portal or junior college, we were really trying to address those deficiencies to see how we could get better for this year.
Let's go over to Zach Fox.
Hey, Coach. Zach Fox, WTOC. I'm curious, with having, you mentioned the tough non-conference schedule this year, and you guys really didn't have too much of that last year heading into this, and now heading into this season. Talk about heading on the road to Florida State, and obviously the one that probably a lot of people are looking for in hosting LSU.
Yeah. Just looking at those opportunities for our team, to be honest, I even looked at, Chanda Rigby at Troy, somebody that I've looked up to for a long time. She recruited my players when I was at Moberly. So I've always watched her program, and they'll string together, 3, 4, maybe 5 of these games in their non-conference. They play them early, and then they get that momentum heading into conference play. And obviously they always fare very well. And so, we had the opportunity to play a couple of those games, and we said, hey, we're going to play them really early. And, I think the big thing that needs to come out of that is the mentality of our team, right? The approach, what we take from it, is really the things that we're looking for there. So, on the road at Florida State will be a tough one. And then, the opportunity to host LSU here in Statesboro. It was a sellout game, sold out in 2 hours. So the environment is going to be really, really fun. And it's a great opportunity for our team to play against, the best of the best.
Let's go over to Adam Miller.
Coach Haden, this is you kind of said it in your opening statement that you feel like your team needs to start playing its best basketball a little sooner. You guys really played with a lot of intensity in Pensacola once you got to that tournament at the end of the season. So what are some of the things that you think you're going to need to see in order for you to feel like your team is going to be playing better sooner?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think it's developing that identity, like those challenging games early, right? Like we're hosting Central Michigan, but then going to Florida State, hosting LSU, going to Missouri State, who was really, really good last year, and I think returned 7 players. I think it's going to be the mentality and approach that we develop through those games, right? We've got to be really resilient and tough through that stretch. So that's going to be really important and then to establish that identity, right? Like we're going to be much different than last year. I thought we were probably one of the bigger teams in the league last year, in terms of especially our post play, and we were playing a lot of 2 post lineups, and a couple players were really responsible for the majority of our rebounding. So again, identity wise, we have to develop that, and we've been working on it really all summer because we're smaller this year, and we're going to have to rebound better by committee. Our transition defense is going to be really important. I think we're a little bit we're built a little better for it, especially for our league this year with being a little bit more mobile and versatile. We are smaller, but our transition to defense and offense, I think we'll be able to play a little bit faster. But yeah, the identity piece, again, the rebounding by committee, we're not going to be able to rely on 1 or 2 players. Our paint touches are going to be different this year. It's not necessarily throwing it into the post and playing out of that. It's going to be more dribble penetration paint touches and then being able to play from there. So I think that's going to be, those things are going to be important to establish and get really good at heading into the Sun Belt play again early this year. Is just really honing in on that identity and what it's going to take to win for this particular group that's built much different than last year's team.
Thanks, Coach Haden. Appreciate your time today.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Again, appreciate everyone at Sun Belt Conference for making this happen. Know that we're excited for another great season for our team, but also from all our league teams. I think the Sun Belt Women's Basketball Conference is just continuing to get better and better each and every year. And I think we can really look forward to an exciting year heading down to Pensacola this year.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start it off with Adam Miller.
Coach Hill, you've been coaching many, many years, and you've had the opportunity to coach a player like Crystal Henderson now for what will be her 3rd year with you. Just what have you seen from her and her growth and how she's matured and established herself into one of the leaders on your team, and maybe some of the goals you've set out for her this year as she continues to mature?
Well, obviously, Crystal is a special player. I mean, to be able to come in here as a freshman and start for 2 years every game and to play at the level that she's played, it's a great example of just how special she is. She's continued to get better. Last year, I think she took another step, and and that step being now where people are game planning for you at the college level. What does it take now to excel there? And at the end of the year, I felt like she really figured that out, and she was really playing well there at the end. And so now this summer, she really spent a lot of time preparing her body for that, also conditioning and getting her body and her mind ready to take over to be the sole leader of the team. For the first 2 years, she shared that leadership role with Michaela, and now everyone knows she's the player, she's the leader, and she's just done everything that it was necessary to do this summer to take that role and to be ready for it. So we just talked about continuing to lead by example, continuing to be the person who be the first one in sprints, be the first one here getting extra shots and setting the example of what it takes to get to our goal. And that's playing on that Monday for SBC championship. And she's continued to try to do those things and lead and set that example this summer.
Let's go over to Victoria.
Hey, Coach, you just mentioned Crystal's leadership on the court, off the court. Cheyenne Holloman is another one. She also was named one of the 2026 K-Yow Servant Leadership Award recipients. So just kind of how have you seen kind of her grow and develop as well? I know, she was a part of that tournament team last year that had those 2 really close wins, and she may not have played the biggest role, but, obviously that's going to be an important one she needs to maybe step into this year. Just how have you seen her growth on and then off the court as well with that servant leader award?
Cheyenne has an unbelievable story, and I can't wait to everyone hear it. She went the junior college route, and she's battled some other things off the court, some health issues that I won't get into because of certain rules, but for her to be where she's at now, and when you know her story and what she's done, a lot of people don't even realize last year she was a walk-on also. She walked on here, and she started from the end of the bench and the end of the rotation, and she just continued to fight and continue to play and continue to get better and figure out a way how to help this team. And she earned her scholarship. And when you say earned, she definitely earned it and everything with what she did. And I think you was able to start seeing those things at the end of this year in her play. And now after having a full year in the system and having a full summary and of conditioning and just being more familiar with what we're asking of her, she's done an excellent job so far leading. And we're really excited about how we feel like she can really help us get to that next level and just be a consistent player. And as you said, and doing those little things that may not always end up on the stat sheet or get the headlines, but as a coach, we all know is very important if you want to have a successful program.
Let's take one more from Billy Mangum.
Hey, Coach, just real quickly, you mentioned Michaela in your opening statement. Just what does an athlete like that coming through your program and seeing that development, how can you use that on the recruiting track to show what your program can do for these women?
Well, it's funny, Billy, when standing on the court for senior day this year, someone asked me, do you think you'll ever have another 4-year player like this? And I think in that reference to in the day's time that we're in. And that's what we're able to use. I tell kids, we had recruits on campus a few weeks ago, and I tell kids, we still recruit high school kids. We still believe in it. Not saying that we don't recruit junior college or transfers or that we have any problem with it, but I feel like you can still recruit high school kids and you can develop them and build relationships with them and build a program. And Michaela has been a great example of that for us. She came in as a freshman, and every year she just continued to get better and better. And now we're able to see that transition over to Crystal Henderson, a player who's now going into her third year coming in from high school and playing at a high level. And again, a lot of programs around the world, around the country right now, they don't have that. And that's one thing that we could point to as an example. We had a Michaela Tolber, we have a Crystal Henderson, and we have a couple of pretty special freshmen we feel like right now that who hopefully could continue that trend of developing and being impactful here at Georgia State.
Thank you, Coach Hill. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
We're just excited to get going. And I think everybody is. We're about 20 practices in, and they're getting tired of each other, like a lot of people have already mentioned. But I'm excited too. I think we got a lot to prove, and we got some hills ahead of us. But I'm really excited. It's been a really fun group to coach, and pretty enjoyable every day. They got great attitude, so that's all you can hope for.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. Let's go over to Shane Metlin to kick it off.
Hey, Sean, we've talked a lot, all the time about, kind of building up the conference, maybe kind of trying to emulate that Ivy League strategy where they were able to get multiple teams in the NCAA tournament. Everybody who's been on here today has kind of talked about how tough their schedule is. I know you obviously have, some big name programs on there. Are you kind of looking around the league too? Like, I know you want to win your games, but are you looking around the league at what everybody else is doing as far as scheduling and, seeing other teams playing Texas like you are, or LSU, like a lot of big name programs? Are you looking at those games as, big opportunities for the conference as a whole and kind of really pulling for those teams and those ones?
Yeah, I think in college sports, or I guess in my experience in women's basketball, I don't know if it's unique or not, but yeah, I'm rooting for everybody. I'm rooting for everybody to win every single non-conference game they can, not just for us, right? But I believe in that. I believe in the direction the conference is going in, and I believe in what we're trying to do. And I mean, you can put us there we're just, we're just doing what's best for us, right? And I think that's what every coach has to do, right? Everybody's in a different process of their team, whether they're building, whether they're starting over, whether they, I listened to Destinee, and it's like, we didn't know how good we were last year, and now this year we know we're going to be good. Like, we should start putting some more challenges on our schedule. Everybody's got challenges on their schedule, but more challenges on their schedule. And so, to answer your question, Shane, yeah, I've gone through everybody's schedule and looked at their non-conference, and just out of interest, because that's just, who I am. But yeah, I'm rooting for Destinee every game. I'm rooting for Chanda every single game, because I want this league to be given the respect I think it deserves. Last year was an interesting case, but man, 2 years ago, the amount of talent in this league was just absolutely unbelievable. Singular talent of players on the team, like our all conference team was unbelievable. So, I think everybody's got to do what's best for them, right? And in the end, we are judged a lot by wins and losses. That's a fact, right? As coaches, but in the end, I think the idea here is how do we pull the bar up for everybody in the Sun Belt, and how do we get Destinee a better seed in the NCAA tournament, right? Or multiple teams in the NCAA tournament, which is increasingly hard. But I'd be really proud of our league if we could get to that point.
Along those lines too, maybe just even a handful of years ago, like for a mid-major to beat a Power Four conference team was, there was just a big gap there. Like, when you look at what everybody's bringing back along this league, where there's a player of the year, there's multiple all conference players coming back. Like, is it like a reasonable expectation that maybe the Sun Belt can get one or two of those games that they have on the schedule.
Yeah, and I think, Shane, that we have in the past, if I'm not mistaken, and if Destiny's still listening, you could thumbs up it, but I think they beat Arizona State last year, right? So traditionally we've had one or two. I know Gene, I can't remember who it was. I know he beat a high major last year. So that's the idea, right? Is that we can go, maybe everybody can get one or two or three. And it can just help raise our bar. And that's, you know me, I believed in that for years. You can't beat them without the opportunity, without putting them on your schedule. And so, yeah, I looked at our schedule earlier and I'm like shaking my head like, okay, we're really doing this, huh? We're Nova, at Texas, Virginia Tech, Boston College, Wisconsin. I mean, that's 5 high majors in a row. But yeah, we are. And we're going to find out who we are or something about who we are. And that's the idea. But I think this league, especially this year, you've got returners, you've got loyal, Crystal Henderson, like Gene was just talking about, right? Chrislyn Rose, who I have the utmost respect for, and you can go down the line, but with returners, right, with some consistency, I think you can have those opportunities and kind of take those opportunities. And so, again, I'll be any chance I get, I'll be there. I'm rooting for any of our teams to win.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
Any final questions for Coach? All right, thanks, Coach O'Regan. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of our first year that I got here. Everything's kind of new. Got a new whole team and then new coaching staff, and is really excited about the direction that we can go in. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's kind of what Cajuns do. So we're excited about the season starting. We've been, we had a good summer and a good pre-games practices and stuff like that. So everything's going pretty good. Try to stay healthy and just get ready to play.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start it off with ESPN Southwest Louisiana.
So, Coach, with all the new players, have you been able to determine who top 2 or 3 scoring options are in practice so far? Is that just something that's going to be developed through the exhibition game in the first few games?
I really feel, the Manley kid that came out of Southern Miss has really got a great jump shot, and some of our offenses that we're running some screening rolls and stuff. She's really effective, doing that. And I always, as a defensive player, that's always something that we have trouble guarding. So I'm hoping in our league she'll be able to, score. Jasmine Jackson can shoot the 3 and stuff. And I think we'll run her at the point sometime at the 2. And I think she'll be able to score for us too, and hopefully we can get some of those freshmen kind of ready in the pre-conference to kind of they're really athletic. They're really good basketball players. It's just a matter of getting them comfortable both on the offensive and defensive side.
Let's go to Dan McDonald.
Morning, Coach. Thanks. Have you ever been in a situation like this where you have not had anybody as far as a returnee, except for you mentioned that first year?
Yeah, the first year was the only time. We had, I think, 8 freshmen my first year. We kind of cleaned house when we got in there and brought in a lot of freshmen. And so there was really some returners from the last coach, and actually I knew those kids because they had played AAU for me. So it wasn't nothing new, it's like, the kids that had stayed, I think there was only 3 of them. And so we had the same, we were shorthanded a little bit, but yeah, it was new and we were excited to be at UL. So now, I don't know, I kind of feel the same way, I'm excited about being here and put in this situation's not, a perfect situation, but it is what it is with the transfer. We got a lot of transfers in. We lost a few kids and, we do move forward. It's basketball. I mean, women's basketball. We can continue to do what we do, defensively and stuff. So yeah, it's a different feeling, completely. But at the same time, it's exciting to me that the challenge is there. Can we put together a team that can compete? They talked about, playing, top-notch teams. We play in Texas, we're going to be out there trying to do our best to compete against them. Vic does a great job, and, we got Memphis, we got, we kind of upscaled our schedule a little bit, but at the same time, you're really trying to help yourself. You're trying to develop yourself. To me, recruiting is the most important thing. Next thing is scheduling. If you got a schedule for the team you have, but at the same time, you're trying to help the conference. I think every coach is great in our conference. I think we all pull for each other until we play each other. So, it's just the competitive nature of us. So, yeah, it's all good. I mean, it's not nothing new to me because this is how sports does. College sports has changed tremendously for everybody. So we just got to adjust and try to make the best of it and build on it. The recruiting for us next year is going to be extremely important too. So.
Did you approach things any differently right at the start? Because even the players themselves, they didn't have, a lot of times players will go to veteran players to ask how things work. You didn't have that.
No, you're right, and then, we had a lot of coaching changes too, where, I mean, actually it was just me and Coach Casey, here, and so that was difficult. To me, that was the most difficult thing for the kids because they didn't have, that instruction that they probably needed during the summer. There was a lot of movement, but to me, it's always the student athlete first, and we worked with them and tried to develop. But it's always better when you have a player-led team, and kind of that's not what we have right now. I'm leading the team, and I would love to have a player-led team. And we're going to develop. We got a couple of kids that are good leaders, and hopefully they can feel more comfortable in their situation to help us to become that. That's my goal is can we become a player-led team.
Is it safe to say you're going to play a lot of players early in the season?
Kevin Foote always asks that, and he laughs at me when I say yes. So I'm going to say yes, but I always tell him, some of my best years was we played 6 kids, 8 kids, and press too, so. That's why I think support staff is so important. You have to have people that can work them out and get them in shape and condition. And then when they come to us, we work on the basketball stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's safe to say if they are healthy, we'll probably play a lot of kids.
Besides Manley and Jasmine, is there anybody else that has really stood out that maybe you've looked at them and said, this may be somebody that we can count on?
Lily Bay, the 6'3" girl, I think we're going to be able to use her on the inside, especially in conference play, I think. I think she'll be, hopefully she'll be more comfortable. We're getting her more comfortable. You can see she's in better shape right now than she was at the beginning of the summer. So I think she can do some things, Maja Price was probably the best player in the state coming out of high school last year. She needed a lot of work this summer. She's starting to become a way more disciplined and consistent. So I'm anxious to see how she does. I think she's going to need all of the pre-conference games to be able to get ready, and I'm hoping she'll be ready. Ariana Pederson is 6'1", and she can play at the guard position. And again, she's going to be a freshman, and I think she can really, really help us. Amani Daniels is another freshman that I think do a lot of good things. She understands our defense a little bit. She's probably a little bit ahead of what I thought. So we got some kids that can step up. There's a lot of question marks, though. A lot of question marks.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan, and thank you, Coach Brodhead. Appreciate your time today.
All right. Appreciate y'all, man. Go Cajuns.
Yes, sir. Man, just really excited. Been on the job 206 days. Really excited about what we've been able to put together in terms of a staff, our roster, and trying to build a team. It's been really neat to get some of those Pro River girls back together. That was always kind of a running joke that when they left Pro River, it'd be kind of cool to coach them again. So due to the Pavia rule, we were able to bring back some of our old heads, if you will, and kind of get the band back together. That's been really fun because you've seen the progression and how much they've matured and gotten older. You know, they left me when they were 19 and 20, and now they're literally a grown woman, and it's been real fun. And obviously they do a phenomenal job of helping us relay our message to everybody else, and just an exciting time here on the Bayou.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function and we'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start it off with Adam Miller.
Coach Fletcher, you're the new guy in the room. You're the only new head coach to this conference this year. You know, you haven't been able to play a Sun Belt game yet, but your knowledge of the league, your what you've seen from the league in years past, how do you feel you're going to be able to get your team ready to play at this level come late December?
Well, the first thing is there's a lot of great coaches in this league and phenomenal players. Had the opportunity to meet and know a lot of these coaches. They did recruit our program at Pearl River, and we had players that went on into this league and have had some success in this league. So just the outpouring respect first and foremost for the coaches. You know, when you look at the different style of play, 1 through 14, not everybody plays the same way. There's different personnel. There's length at different positions. There's quickness. So what we did, we had a strategic plan, and we wanted to try to get girls that kind of fit the mold, if you will, for Sunbelt style of play and our style of play. Some girls that had some success in the league or a league that was like-minded. And so that was our process in terms of recruiting. We tried to go out and get players that fit our style of play. You know, we'll press and change things up. So that's what we've done since day one, and the girls have been phenomenal. But like I said, in terms of getting them prepared, I mean, I think you got to look at your non-conference schedule. Like Sean said, I mean, we're playing Clemson, Mississippi State, Alabama, Indiana, you know, and when I went to the meeting down in Florida, that was the biggest thing is, you know, which he does a phenomenal job, but he talked about it as well. But you got to challenge yourself, and you're going to find out who you are and who you aren't in those games and in those moments. And, you know, so it's going to prepare you for a rugged Sun Belt Conference schedule for sure.
Let's go over to Victoria.
Hey, Coach. You know, obviously you're not the only coach in our league that has kind of moved up the ranks and joined the Sun Belt. I mean, last year we had 3 in a very similar situation to yours, and also did, you know, were able to bring along players or get players back that they maybe coached at that other level previously. Just have you reached out to any of those coaches? Have they offered you any advice, or is there maybe a coach that has taken that similar path in a different league that, you know, you've kind of gone to? Because you know, you go from, you know, playing JUCO to playing, like you said, Clemson, Alabama, Indiana. Is there kind of any advice you've maybe been given about making that jump and having to face these kind of, you know, big named schools?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, obviously Missy and I have a really good relationship, and I've known her since I was a little boy growing up, and, you know, rode the bus home with her brother from school every day. So I've known that family for a long time, Coach Rigby as well. But, you know, I did call a bunch of different coaches that had coached in this league or are coaching somewhere else. And I just asked, you know, what type of advice would you give me going into the Sun Belt in year one? Just curious, because different perspective. I'm always trying to learn and steal plays and ideas. And, you know, kind of the consensus answer, Victoria, was double down on what got you there and do what you do, you know, and you got to get players that obviously can have success in the Sun Belt if you're going to have a chance, if not above. So that's no different. You know, when you're coaching junior college, you're trying to get Division I players so you can win at that level. There's no different here. You've got to get kids that can play at the P4 level to have success at this level. And so we tried to identify and try to get personnel that fit us. And then, like I said, I think it did help that we had some girls that had that extra year that were able to come back and speed things up in terms of teaching, you know, our style of play. But everybody's been phenomenal. I mean, every coach in this league's been very supportive and phenomenal, but I understand the competitive nature, but everybody's been awesome.
Thank you, Coach Fletcher. Appreciate your time today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, first, thank you this afternoon. Obviously, it's always good to be here representing Marshall and our women's basketball team. And October is a really exciting time of year as we're getting ready to, you know, fall sports ending and we're kicking off. So this is a good week for us. We finally get on the court against a couple other teams and get to see where everything is going. You know, it's since last year, we were really excited about how the tournament run ended and all the positive things we were able to springboard from that. But then you add in the, you know, spring workouts, getting our whole team together in June, and then all the growth we were able to do through that in the fall. You know, I'm proud of how they've competed, how they've grown, all the different ways that we've gotten better individually as a team. And so now we finally get to see what that looks like against other opponents.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start it off with Victoria.
Hey, Coach. I think everyone kind of, you know, point out the obvious that, you know, you lose someone like Aislinn Hayes, who's a leading scorer, and you got to replace that. But I think anyone that watched last year, especially that 4-game tournament run, is you had different players step up in every game, whether it was Peyton or Meredith or Blessing King, and they are coming back for you, which I think, you know, one of those very lucky teams that get that much experience and kind of, you know, just that maybe hunger after that tournament run. So just kind of how important are those three and maybe some others that are returning, having gone on that run and, you know, they all stepped up in a really big moment and had a really exciting run, and kind of how that translates to this new year.
Yeah, obviously Aislinn had a huge role in what we did last year, but I thought a lot of our success, as you mentioned, that happened down the stretch in, you know, February and March, was we were able to find more balanced scoring, which, you know, allowed us to do different things on offense. And as we got deeper into the bench, you know, we were able to be a lot more fluid and less predictable. And so those are the things that we have built off. We really want to be, you know, too deep at every position and be able to score in multiple ways. And we had a huge emphasis this offseason at being able to score at the rim more efficiently in the different ways each player could do that. And, you know, between the returners, and obviously we had 8 returners who all saw the court and had significant minutes last year, and then adding in our newcomers, 2 freshmen and 4 through the portal, we felt like we did a good job of addressing some of the deficits we had last year and then adding depth so that we could get through injuries and sickness better in December and January. So we feel really good about that. And, you know, now it's fun because we're in the sense that we have great competition every day at practice. They want to find different ways to, you know, take steps forward in league play and just how we accomplish stuff on the court. And so that part has all been really good. But I think lots of people are going to be, you know, really excited in our stands in terms of how the players have developed. I mean, that's what ultimately, you know, we're supposed to make sure we're doing a really good job of changing who they are as athletes and people. And so I think, you know, from the interior to how we're attacking the rim, it looks really different right now. And so we're excited to see how that plays out in games.
Let's go over to Billy Mangum.
Hey, Coach. This is kind of a 2-part question. The first one being, you know, you said yourself you returned 8 players. How much confidence does that give you in your second year in the league?
Yeah, you know, I think retention just makes everything so much easier in terms of team culture, team leadership, and then obviously everything on the court where, you know, even if you're the new player, if 4 other players are getting it right, it becomes a lot faster learning process because you just understand where you're supposed to fit into the system. And so, you know, we're just further ahead when we started this year for that reason. We could mix in newcomers with all the returners, and the growth process and the learning process has just been that much faster. And so, you know, it's a huge advantage, and it's something that we hope that always continues. And obviously we know the realities of the transfer portal, but we want to make sure our players are having such a great experience and really understanding what makes Marshall special and Huntington special, so that when they have to go to that process of thinking about, do I want to stay? That's their first choice because they've loved what they've done both in the classroom, on the court, and then how they're treated in the community.
And then building off that, kind of touching on what you just said, you know, that maturity, that growth, was it intentional? You know, you only bring in 1 freshman on the recruiting trail. I mean, the maturity across the board is, you know, you look down and you see graduate, junior, senior. How vital is that to building a team in today's, you know, women's basketball landscape?
Well, we have 2 freshmen. But yeah, you know, I think we were really careful last year in the recruiting process. Obviously, you know, we got the job after the portal had closed the year before, and we wanted to make sure if we were bringing in freshmen, we had a very specific role for them and what they were going to be able to do for us. And just being a year behind that obviously always makes the recruiting piece a little more challenging. And so we were pretty thoughtful about how we did that and then our future freshman classes. But you know, there is the flip side. We want to have balance across all classes while also understanding that we need to balance it with transfers who have got some significant minutes. Obviously, you know, Tamaya Lewis Yutzi had come from VCU. She'd been a starter there for a couple years. And so you know, that experience and, you know, scoring on the court, that matters too. And so I think, you know, through the portal and through recruiting, there's two ways that we can make sure our program's moving forward. And we want to be really thoughtful about utilizing all of those paths so that we can be better each year.
Thanks, Coach Fulks. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, we're super excited about our 25-26 season. We think we put a roster together that will be rather competitive, like it's been for us in my tenure here, my 6-year tenure here at ODU. We had to do a great mixture of transfer portal. We were able to pick up some talented players that were leaving teams within conference. And we also signed a true freshman, and we retained 4 out of our 5 starters from our roster from last year. We brought back 7. And I think in this climate of NIL and transfer portal is rather unique to have players want to come back to where they just played when money's being thrown around, better opportunity elsewhere. It shows where relationship really matters within the culture of everything that we built for them to want to come back and commit themselves to this process again.
We'll open up now for questions from our media. For our media, please use the raise hand function and we'll call on you to ask those questions. Started off with Adam Miller.
Hey, Coach. You know, you guys had quite a busy summer in terms of, you know, taking the team to Los Angeles, and you know, you did some extra coaching on the side with the AmeriCup team. But I want to talk about the AmeriCup one specifically. You know, you were around some really, really professional, high caliber, you know, talented players. When you go through that experience and then you come back to campus, do you have something that's you know, does that change the way you coach in any way? Does that change the expectations maybe you have for your program or your team, or does it just inspire you to, you know, to do things in a way that maybe you hadn't done before?
Well, it doesn't take much to motivate me, but it is rather inspirational when you can do anything within the family of USA Basketball. I committed a large portion of my life, 15, 16 years of my life, I dedicated to them from a player perspective. But now to be able to do that from the sidelines and impact in a different way is amazing. Anytime you can go in that environment, you're going and you're meeting up with other head coaches from other conferences. And this is the watering hole for coaches where you can really sharpen one another, and you're in a high caliber environment with high level talent in there to where it really just sharpens every edge within you. It steals your focus even more. And now when you come back to your squad, you have a different type of motivation, a different type of inspiration that you can pour into them with. A lot of my players are fans of other players from other teams when you're looking at the SECs and the ACCs of the world. So they're super excited to know what that experience was like. I get to impart wisdom based off of my encounters with those types of players that are I'm mentors to, or we have friendships, you know, because of, you know, being within the USA Basketball family, and being able to use them as individuals I can call on to say, hey, we want to put you on a Zoom call. Hey, I want you to talk to this player, you know, and just be an extra source of motivation for them outside of our coaching staff.
Let's go over to Shane Metlin.
Hey, DeLisha, I asked, Destinee similar question, bringing back so many starters and people who played last year. Obviously you're excited about that, back in the spring when they make that decision, but to get your team together for practices here, now you're putting stuff in, like how much tangible benefit do you see at this point in the year where, maybe practices go smoother or the players are kind of like taking on more leadership roles than if you had to replace an entire roster.
Yeah, it really helps tremendously when you have an influx of players from the season before return for the upcoming season. And it allows them to be able to police the team, the locker room, the huddles in a different way. It's a intricate, interesting type of leadership that's taking place because the newcomers, they don't have to fully rely solely on what the coaches are saying in order for them to understand or learn new concepts and schematics. They can lean on the understanding of those that have been here before, and they understand clearly how it's supposed to be done, how it's supposed to sound, how it's supposed to look. And now it takes pressure off of coaches to be able to get that information across to them. Their teammates can do it. So there's tremendous value when you have that number of returners coming back to your team. There's a level of familiarity in everything that you're doing, and it just creates a different type of ambiance and feel where we can move through things faster.
All right.
Let's go over to Billy Mangum.
Hey, Coach. Looking at your newcomers and some of the pieces that you brought in, a lot of size. Size seemed to be the emphasis there. How do you feel like that's going to add to your roster, really bringing in a lot of height and a lot of, players that can really handle themselves in the post?
So size definitely does matter, but for me, in some instances it doesn't. It's about the fight of the size of the dog within you. You know, how much willpower can you exert and heart you can display. So you can be 5 foot nothing and you can still come and play for me, or you can be 6 foot everything and still come and play for me. But you have to have a level of tenacity attached to whatever it is that you're doing. Size matters because whether we're playing non-conference and we're going up against power fours, we want to be able to give ourselves a fighting chance. Or whether we're playing against all the creativeness that you see within the amazing coaches that we have in the Sun Belt and how they've comprised their teams, we want to be able to put any type of lineup out there to match whatever it is that our opponents is throwing our way.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Well, first, thank you guys for putting this on. Just to talk about my team this year, it just brings a big old smile to my face. This is going into year 3 for us, and we finally feel like we have a group that's truly connected in the locker room and on the floor, and just super excited about the projection of this team and where we can end up in March. We've definitely brought in some experience with our transfers and our newcomers and filled the void that we've been having here the past couple of years. So to say that I am ecstatic for November 3rd to get here, it doesn't say it enough.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function and we'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start it off with Victoria.
Hey, Coach. We obviously talk a lot about, where players come from, whether it's different schools or they're freshmen or whatever. One thing I noticed about your roster is the amount of international talent. You have 3 girls who are from different countries. You had Daniela Gonzalez, too, who played in the AmeriCup for, who was at Colombia. And you took the team to Greece. So you spent a lot of time kind of embracing the international aspect of sport. And I'm always just curious how that recruiting process works, or maybe how you sell your culture and your team to those players to get them to travel this way to play for you.
Well, when you spend time with Jose Fernandez at South Florida, you can't help but fall in love with the international game and international recruiting. To be honest with you, before I got there, had no experience in it, and he put me onto a totally different light. But I love diversity. And so being able to have 2 kids from Spain and 1 kid from Colombia. We actually have Romark, who is Haitian, but she was raised in America, so she brings a totally different light. And then Tamara Ortiz, who we've added to our roster, she is Mexican American, being first generation. So we have a lot of different diversity. I love the international game. I think FIBA, the way the ball moves side to side, right? The IQ that those kids play with, the physicality that you see, that's kind of how we're shaping our program here. And so being able to tap into that international talent and get them over here, it's been a lot of fun. Going to Greece, we couldn't have picked a better time and a better team to take with us to Greece. Interesting fact, I was supposed to take that trip in the summer of 23 when I got the job. And I was like, whoa, no. Let's slow down here. And so we were very strategic in how we planned it, and being able to take a group of 15 young women that we have all personally recruited. We've only got one kid, Krista Narcisse, that was here, that was part of the old staff. And so being able to have a group that was ours and being able to have those extra practice days and to go over and play games against high level FIBA competition has really propelled this team forward. Being able to, we've had 3 inter-squad scrimmages, a closed-door scrimmage, and two games in Greece. So we're ahead a little bit of where we have been the past 2 years. But to get back to the diversity thing, I just love having diversity within my staff, within my program, and so we get a lot from the basketball floor, but off the court, I think my young women gain a whole lot more.
Let's go over to Billy Mangum.
Hey, Coach. Speaking on that physicality aspect that you brought up, with the international scene, coming back to South Alabama and back to the Sun Belt, you got your first year as a head coach, but, how have you kind of seen the physicality of the league, when you were previously at South Alabama as an assistant, to where it is now, and how vital that, international presence and just really teaching the kids what it takes to make it through the gauntlet, so to speak?
That's a great point. When I first got to the Sun Belt, you had Little Rock. You had Troy, which is still Troy. You had Texas Arlington. So I felt like those first few years in the Sun Belt, it was really, really physical. If you know anything about Little Rock and how Joe Foley ran his defense, man, you were going to get banged up, beat up. And then kind of whatever. But then with the new teams with ODU and James Madison and Southern Miss entering the league, when I came back, it was definitely a more physical league than when I left it in 2020. But again, I think with having international kids that understand that Danny understands physicality. Princess understands physicality. And being in the American and just seeing how the game is played, we want to be a physical team, and I think we are this year. I know we are this year. With the rules changing, without the hot stove touch rule, I think that's to our advantage in how we want to play defensively. So going over to Greece, we thought we were more physical, and then that second game in Greece, we really had to make sure that we held our own. And so it was great to see our kids respond like that.
Let's go back over to Victoria.
We had a lot of teams last year that, were lower seeds selected for the tournament and then made runs, or, like we've mentioned the call earlier, just they got hot at the right time. Looking at how you guys finished last season, do you see that as a motivator? Or are you telling your girls kind of, look, it might not matter how we get picked, because, look what Marshall did going on a 4-game run, or what Arkansas State did being picked 13 to go and win it. Does that serve as a motivator in any way?
It does and it doesn't, because we've got so many newcomers. So, one of the things we thought last year is that, man, the injury bug, we would get rolling and Danny was out with the flu, and then we get rolling and Span went out with a foot injury. And then, Taryn Koffel, who was I felt like was probably one of the better freshmen in our league, especially if you look at her league stats. She tears her ACL and misses the last 8 games against when she tears it against Troy. So, our older kids understood that we got better, may not have shown it in the win column. We trended up, and we talked about trending up last year. We wanted to keep trending up. When Jordan Rozier went out, that really hurt last year. But our new kids coming in, those ranking things preseason, it's great for media. I feel like it's great for the stories like Arkansas State, who was picked 13th last year, who comes and they win the whole damn thing. I think it's great for that. But what we've talked about is, who are we going to be each and every day? Who are we going to be? Who are we going to be each and every day? And then we have a thing like, we want to initiate. We don't react. We initiate. And so I think with this group, they know very little. Especially, we've got so many older transfers, right? So they know very little about last year's team. Everything has been about the group that we have right now and how we can get better and what our expectations are for ourselves.
Thanks, Coach Jackson. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Go Jags.
Yeah, first of all, just really excited to be able to represent Southern Miss today and be here for Media Days. Thank you guys for putting this on. Really excited and have great anticipation for our team this year. I think like everybody else, we're a couple weeks out and, ready to see what we have. And once we get playing, kind of, how those pieces are going to come together and the way this team's going to grow. I'll say that each day they've been a tremendous joy to coach. They respond to every challenge we throw out at them, and just really feel like it's a special group and a special team. And so, just a lot of anticipation with our non-conference schedule. We've got some tough challenges. We deliberately tried to schedule with some American Conference, SEC, ACC opponents. And then obviously the Sun Belt, the expectation is the league's going to continue to be an extremely tough league with a lot of parity. So got to play good to win, each night. So just a great league, excited to be part of it and ready to get this season tipped off for sure.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start it off with Heath Hinton.
Hey, Missy, coming into this job, you brought in a lot of pieces that you've coached or coached in the past that are familiar with you, and a lot of pieces that, have been at Southern Miss, left, came back into the fold. How important has that been for those players to be back with you during this transition, and then also the ones that stayed on at Southern Miss? How important has that been for you coaching this team?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Heath, thank you for the question. Definitely, anytime you can have retention in this day and age with the portal and, all the different opportunities for kids to leave and just having to rebuild those rosters. I look at the student athletes that transferred with us as retention. We were able to keep 5 players transferred from ULM, and 4 of those played significant minutes for us, led us in scoring. Matter of fact, all 4 last year. They were our top 4 scorers. And then obviously to be able to keep Morgan Sieper here at Southern Miss and, Jemiah Evans and Whitney Hart, that gave us just 8 players off the bat, to be able to build around and work with in starting this job. So great question there for sure.
Let's go over to Billy.
Hey, Coach. Looking at your roster, just kind of curious your thoughts on what goes into building that. One true freshman. You had the unfortunate, redshirt injury, but she was on campus. She got to experience the program, and then also to kind of follow that. You have 8 players from the state of Mississippi. How big did that factor into everything as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We looked at it kind of, I guess, a bit as a homecoming for a lot of us. I have 2 staff members that played at Southern Miss. Coach Jonathan Williams is from South Mississippi. And then there were a lot of student athletes that we felt like maybe had gone off, that it was an opportunity to bring those guys back home and bring those young ladies back home and have a chance to play in front of friends and family. And, that they were good enough to impact our roster and be here. So given the opportunity, it just made sense to do that. I don't know that every year we'll be able to have that many kids from the state, but certainly this year it worked out that way. And just really excited about the energy and the community support being able to bring these kids home.
Let's go back to Heath.
Missy, now head coach at Southern Miss. Started at PCS, went to Jones, ULM, now back in Hattiesburg. Is how big of a dream come true is this for you? And has this been something that you've been looking for maybe ever since you got out of high school, went to JUCO? How big, just for you, what does this job mean?
Like I say, I think for the whole program and for a lot of our players that are having an opportunity to play here, staff members, but obviously, yes, grew up in Hattiesburg, was a high school coach here, very proud of my time in Hattiesburg as a high school coach, a junior college coach, and then obviously getting to get some experience as a head coach in the Sun Belt. I love the city of Hattiesburg. I love the university. And so it is pretty cool being able to represent Southern Miss and
and being able to wear the black and gold. I'm not going to say that it's not, but certainly probably as much excitement as I have about being the head coach at Southern Miss. You know, I'm equally excited about this group of young people I get to be around every day and coach. I love our team, and I just want to maximize our roster as much as I can, and this year with those players, and just super excited about, you know, what this team could be. We've got a long journey ahead. We got to get a lot better. We've got to make sure we continue to grow every day and work hard. But like I said, these young people have, you know, every day they have really accepted the challenge and just been a lot of fun. Great attitudes, great effort. Don't have to coach any of that. And so unique situation, I believe, this season for this team.
Thanks, Coach Bilderback. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
You know, I'm really excited this season, like every season. What makes this season special is I feel like we have a year of the transfer portal, a strong transfer portal under our belt. So I'm excited to see what that looks like for our squad, as well as the competition out there. So going into this season, I've been excited about that in particular. And I feel just as rejuvenated coaching as the very first time I did in the early 2000s, coaching women's basketball.
We'll open up now for questions. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start it off with Caleb.
See, just wanted to introduce myself first. I'm going to be covering y'all for the Austin American Statesman. I'm Caleb.
Hi,
As
Caleb.
my name says, of course. But yeah, just speaking of transfers, which transfers are you most excited for this upcoming season?
Do you want my student athlete answer? All of them? You know, each one of them is really unique, to be honest with you. We have transfers that are coming in from four-year schools, as well as transfers that are coming in from two-year institutions. Some of those junior college student athletes have only had 1 year of JUCO under the belt. Some have had two. Some of our four-year student athletes have had 1 year of a 4 year. Some have had 3 years or 2 or 3 years at a 4-year school. So I'm excited about being able to find a way, if that makes sense, Caleb. I've always loved the game, but with the changes with the transfer portal and the way athletics is changing in college, I've embraced it. I really believe you've got to embrace it. And so embracing challenges like anything else in life, there's going to be your ups and downs. But I've found that with this particular group of young women, right, adversity is something that they can take on, and I'm here to help them be able to work through whatever that adversity looks like, right? Because at some level they hit adversity by being transfers, you know, alone. And now it's a matter of being able to find a way on the floor with these women as we move forward. And we have 9 newcomers this year.
Let's go over to Michael Adams.
Yeah, hi. I'll also introduce myself. I'm Michael Adams. I'll be covering you with the Austin Sports Journal.
Okay. Welcome, Michael.
And so going back to kind of what you were talking about, transfer portal and 9 newcomers, let's touch more on that, because that creates, a challenge as a coach to mold that team into one. How do you approach that heading into a competitive conference like the Sun Belt?
Like most families, you have to start early, right? And you have to develop relationships with them. So we've spent a really good amount of time of being even more intentional than we had in the past, of getting to know these young women, whether it be, we did a great job as far as watching film through the recruiting process, getting to know them and their people. But then once they hit, you know, Texas State, we literally started right away by making sure that I have more time available for our student athletes. Some of it's intentional, like I said, so some of them you got to kind of pull into the office. But once we do, just developing that rapport is really important. So when you coach them really hard, they can feel good about knowing that you care about them as a person, because a lot of them you're right, Michael, they bring a level of stress, and there's a reason why they transferred, some anxiety as well. And so the only way that we're able to work through that is truly work through that. That only happens by developing relationships. And so the goal is hopefully that this pays off long term and we can help her be her best with getting a degree and finding a way to compete.
Let's go back to Caleb.
Oh, I know we were talking about transfers, but I saw Sonia Burks had a very impressive freshman year, and she's coming into her sophomore year. What are some expectations for her going forward, and what are you most excited for her to make a leap in development in?
It's a great question. Sanaya did not have a true summer because she was a freshman. And when I mean true summer, your June and July of training. So we've really looked for her, Caleb, to develop the strength that she needs. She got thrown around quite a bit in the Sun Belt Conference. I think that really worked against her confidence being a, national scorer. And so now that she's had that time to train, we've definitely seen some benefits to that as far as strength. She also is one of the best voices in the room. If you were asked the team, she's one of two players that they say that's who we look to, right? As a young player, just being a sophomore, but somebody who's had a lot of minutes. She's also a coach's kid, former student athlete's child. Both her parents were former student athletes. It's what we would expect from her. So far, she's done an excellent job. She's done everything we asked for her to do. And I appreciated that because her own teammates are saying that's someone that we want to ride with. That's someone we want to listen to. So the expectation from her is that she needs to finish, right? She's got to be able to knock down these shots now. She's stronger. She's got to be able to knock down her scores. She's been able to get to them within practice. She was able to last year, but we truly need for her to be able to score for us as well as increase her ability to be able to defend.
Let's go back to Michael Adams.
So yeah, you talked about Sonia. Also, one thing I've noticed about your roster is you're very young. And what are some of your what are some of your realistic expectations for this team as you continue to get better throughout the season?
We are young, Michael. I'm glad you recognize that with so many transfers. That's why I wanted to preface it with some of them only had 1 year of college experience. My expectation is that they came to Texas State knowing that we're going to push them really hard and that they're going to have times where we're going to turn the ball over. That's what happens with young teams. But the best part about having young players is they don't know what they don't know. So when they go into a game, they're going into a game where there's a fearlessness, right? Or a naive, if you want to call it that as well. But I look at it truly as fearlessness because basketball is basketball. So I appreciate that piece of it. And then I put a lot of my coaching staff to be able to work through those small things, right? And in lieu of the fact that in light of the fact that we have the transfer portal, these kids want to play. And so if that's the case, right, and then you add the revenue share into that, we have very real conversations about what expectations are. That started through the recruiting process, though, Michael, when you talked about developing relationships. So when we do have these conversations, right, we need you to do X, Y, Z, and you hit them pretty hard with the numbers. I'm talking about the basketball numbers, not the additional revenue share, but there's an expectation that this is part of your job, if you will. And I found that having this early communication relationship with them, there's an understanding. It doesn't mean they like it, but it does mean that there's an understanding when, especially with young players, they appreciate transparency. So being transparent is really important. So we can move past, right, the turnovers or the miscues. And again, I put a lot more stress on my coaching staff to help develop these young women as we move forward.
We got time for one more from Caleb.
Yeah, coach. So obviously this is y'all's last season in the Sun Belt with, the upcoming move to the Pac-12 next year. What are your thoughts on the move, like how it might help the team and like kind of just expectations for that move?
Caleb, long-term excitement, right? It allows me to be in a conference with my alma mater. I think that's fun in some of those schools. But short term, right, this season is all I think about. I'm going day to day with practice. How can we compete for that title in the Sun Belt? I truly don't think about it unless someone brings it up. Because if you're in our war rooms when we're meeting and talking as a staff, we're talking about those, right? You just had Missy on. We're talking about Jakayla. We're talking about things. We're talking about the players within our conference right now. Now, step outside of the other areas. You talk recruiting, right? That looks different. But as far as our day-to-day operations, it's what can we do to compete with Rigby at Troy, right? We got to be better at boxing out. What does our speed look like? So truly, Caleb, my thought process is 100% Sun Belt when it comes to our day-to-day operations, our practices, and what we need to look like. And if I lose sight of that, I'm going to lose. So I think that's really important that we consider as we're working through this preseason and what that looks like, right? We get ULM. We've always been competitors regardless of what our records are like up to that point. That's going to be important as well. Of course, you got ODU. I mean, truly this conference is really competitive. I believe exactly what I said, and that is, right, we're the cousin to the SEC in a lot of ways, and they're poaching our players, which you see to be the truth, right? Even one of mine, we lost to the SEC. So I'm focused completely on the Sun Belt, excited about the future, but I don't have time to think about that when I got to compete against Coach Rigby.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time today.
All right. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you, Michael, and I appreciate you, Caleb. I look forward to this relationship this season.
Yeah, it's really great to be here. I'm humbled and honored to be entering my 14th season as a head coach in the Sun Belt Conference representing Troy University. And it is truly a blessing. And again, never been more excited than this year. And I can say that honestly. We're very grateful that in a 14-team league of so many good teams like we have, there are 15 players chosen in the preseason to be all conference, and we got 3 of them on there. And we're just really excited about that and proud for them. It just does everything to raise even expectations when you get those kind of honors. Yeah, things are different. Everybody's been talking about the difference in the landscape of the NCAA. It's changed things in so many ways in recruiting. And things are really different over here at Troy if you look at our roster. Most of you know that I've built my whole career since I've been at Troy, mainly on the junior college player. We didn't get a single junior college player added to our roster this year, which is strange. People also find it strange that we have 4 true freshmen on our roster this year. But I am very, very excited about the roster because the level of junior college players that I was getting in the past turns out with the new change on landscape, a lot of people think they're worth, $50,000, $100,000 at other schools. I did not gain those players on my roster, but on the other side of that, because those players are being added to those Power 4 rosters now and those types of things, I can get a different level, and I believe the Sun Belt can get a different level high school player than we've ever been able to get before. I'm leaning very heavily on a freshman from right here in Alabama. She was the Alabama 6A Player of the Year, Sanaya Jackson. Again, in years past, I would have never had a shot at getting her because, she's just a high IQ, great athlete, and she's here at Troy. So I'm changing with the times. I think I might be the longest standing coach in the Sun Belt Conference, or the oldest. I don't know, most tenured, I'll call it. But I'm continuing to learn, and it's keeping me sharp. And I believe I'm becoming a better coach. And we're going to put a great product on the floor this year.
We'll open up now for questions from our media. For our media, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you to ask those questions. We'll start off with Victoria.
Hey, Coach. You talked about, you maybe recruited a little differently and brought on some different players this year, but one thing that's always consistent with Troy is your ability to rebound the ball. Mm-hmm. And you obviously had to replace 2 of your bigs. And it looks like you did that with 2 freshmen. You have a 6'4" and a 6'3" freshman in Mariana and Jasmine, it looks like. While they maybe don't have that college experience, and the expectation is dominate the boards if you look at Troy's recent history. So just how do you, kind of not put that pressure on them, but like maybe even get them to come to Troy knowing like, hey, we need you to rebound. We need you on the floor. And they obviously have Zay Dyer to look up to as well, since, being that double leader and being able to get those boards too. But just how did that kind of go about? And, you had to replace those 2 bigs and you found it in 2 freshmen.
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. Things do look different right now in rebounding for us. And to be honest, those freshmen are not ready to come in on today. If we play today, they're not ready to come in and replace those 5th-year seniors I had last year who left and are playing professionally right now. But the standard does not change with us. Rebounding is king at Troy. We're having to work harder for it right now. We track that every day. We are putting pressure on the players every day to get better and more aggressive at rebounding. But right now, I would say, if we started the season today, we would have a smaller lineup because we have some aggressive players that are great rebounders, like Rachel Leggett that we picked up in the transfer portal, who was 2nd team All Sun Belt Conference in the preseason. She's getting a lot of rebounds at practice now, and she's not a traditional post player that I would have thought, but she's going to be playing minutes there because she's getting it done, and she's an experienced player that can come in and really cause matchup problems with other post players. So I always say, or I've always heard, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. There's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to win a basketball games. There's lots of ways to win basketball games, and it's always figure outable in my opinion. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're figuring out maybe different lineups, or I'm looking at new actions maybe I didn't run before on offense that's best suited for the talent that I have on this particular roster. So it's very exciting. The standard is still the same, we 100% plan to find a way to come in and win this conference with all these great players, with all these great coaches in this conference. That's still what we're working towards.
Let's go over to Billy Mangum.
Hey, Coach. I know everything is kind of, revolved around recruiting and everything like that, but you have always been such a huge advocate for scheduling. And, looking at your schedule, you go to Missouri, to Alabama. Just talk a little bit about, how a schedule like that comes together and where you've kind of seen the benefits, not just for your program, but the league as a whole, with how the entire coaches group within the women's basketball community has really elevated the league with the way that they're scheduling.
Yeah. So, and we also go to Kansas State. They're a major team this year. Yeah, my philosophy on that is kind of flip-flopped a little bit throughout the years. And of course, you get those opportunities to play those teams. Iron sharpens iron. It's going to make your players more prepared. Of course, we always say that at this time of year. We were playing these teams to be more prepared. But, for a while, we were playing those teams. We were kind of in the conference. We really encouraged each other to play these teams because we were trying to get 2 bids in the NCAA tournament. We thought it would do great things for our net score. But really at this point, last year JMU did not get in the NCAA tournament. We all saw what happened there. They played had an unbelievable season. Everything was in line to get 2 bids, I thought, the way things worked out this year in the NCAA tournament, and that did not happen. So I really changed my focus. That's not really my thought process behind scheduling these teams. It's all about becoming the best team we can be now. And if that ever leads to getting 2 teams in the NCAA tournament, fine, but it's not my motivating factor at this point. It literally is just reaching out and playing some higher level competition that instead of, we might play another Sunbelt team and we have to block out to get rebounds. Well, when you go play SEC teams, you have to shove out. And that's just one example that I could give you many. It just makes you better to go play them.
Thank you, Coach Rigby. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.